Hello, crafty friends. It's Heather Ruri here for ReverseConfetti, and today we are creating this beach scene birthday card using new products from the July 2022 release. Let's start by creating the background. I used 3 colors of Distress Oxide inks and a piece of acetate to create a quick, inky background. I like to use a piece of acetate that is larger than the panel so I can move it around easily. I applied 3 colors of ink from lightest to darkest onto the acetate with my watercolor cardstock under the acetate to give me a point of reference on how big to make the stripes. I spritzed the ink with water and then flipped over the acetate and laid it on the watercolor panel. When removing the acetate, I peeled it off to one side, and then at the end of the panel, instead of lifting it off, I dragged it back to the other side. This helps get a more color-saturated first inking. You could do the ink smushing the other way and have the acetate on the bottom and lay the watercolor piece onto it, but I feel this gives a better result when you want a heavy amount of color, which is what I was going for. I dried the piece off camera and repeated the process to add even more color. You can also have another piece of cardstock ready to pounce into the leftover ink for an extra background so the ink doesn't go to waste. Next, let's add some texture by die cutting the Deco cover panel with the inky background we just created. Now, I thought the design looked like suns and sun rays, so I flipped the design upside down than how it was intended to fit today's card theme. Now to work on the images. I stamped the adorable images from the Dog Days stamp set using black pigment ink on a panel of 110-pound white Neenah cardstock. I chose to use black pigment ink because I wanted to show that when you stamp with black pigment ink and heat emboss it with clear embossing powder, it really makes your images pop. I choose to do this when I watercolor to keep the watercolor contained in each section, but in today's case, I just wanted to make the images stand out more. I don't do this with Copic coloring because you don't want to color over embossing with Copic markers. So today I will be coloring with Caron brush markers. Nothing fancy, just simple coloring. I like to die cut my images out before I color in case I mess up when I die cut using the coordinating dies. Once the images are cut out, I use the sticky portion of a Post-it note to hold the image in place while I color. I went ahead and colored the images for today's card off screen to save some time. We will come back to those in a bit when it's time to assemble the card. To create the sand along the bottom, I tore a piece of craft cardstock and used some vintage photo Distress Oxide ink to add some definition to the edges. I spritzed some water and picked up the leftover ink up with a paintbrush and flicked it on the torn piece to add some texture. I wanted to have some waves in the background, so I used one of the new hot foil plates to create that. I am so excited that ReverseConfetti now is offering hot foil plates. There are 3 new sets pictured here: the Happy Birthday set, the Thank You set, and the Elements set. I will be using the scallop border and the Elements set to create the waves. So I have already plugged in my hot foiling machine and turned it on. I laid down the Elements hot foil plate onto the platform with the design facing up. This set comes with the hot foil plate die as well as the outline cutting die. Next, I laid down a piece of Glass Slimmer Glimmer foil on top. Make sure the pretty side of the foil touches the pretty side of the die. Next, I laid a piece of Hammermill white cardstock face down on top of the foil. I cut a piece larger than what I needed and was not worried about centering the design because I will be die cutting around it. Next, I hit the timer button. It will flash until the platform is heated and ready, and then will go to a solid green. Once it stops flashing, I pull the platform from the base and I add 2 plates on top before running it through my die cut machine. The reason I pull the platform out first before adding the plates on top is that I find it really helps with shifting and getting a clean image. The die cut machine is not cutting anything, it is just applying pressure. I like to add a piece of copy paper on top before running it through the machine to protect the foil from my die cutting plates. I don't want to have any impression that might be on the plates to transfer onto the foil. After you remove it from the die cut machine, you can peel away the foil to reveal the hot foiled image. I love the shine it gives and will be perfect to use to resemble the ocean waves. Now let's finish up the card and add all the pieces. I started by adhering the background to a top folding white note card. I adhered the sand along the bottom of the card, then the hot foiled scallop piece to resemble waves, next the palm trees, the sunbathing dog image, the umbrella, and the bucket and shovel. I also white heat embossed a sentiment off camera from this Dog Days sentiment stamp set on a black cardstock strip. You may notice that I adhered some of the elements off the edges of the card base. I like to do this sometimes when I have a tight space to work within, and I just use a larger envelope when sending my card. I hope this has inspired you to create a scene card. As I mentioned, today's cards uses products from the new ReverseConfetti release. I have linked to the entire release in the description below, as well as my blog post with lots more information. As always, thank you for watching and spending some time with me today. I'll be back soon with another video. Have a great day.